Are we in? Are we in? Can you hear me? You can hear me? I don't know what happened there. Oh, that's worrying, isn't it? I haven't got a fault. But the good news is, yeah, I could do the old Stevie Fulton mime show, which I have been known to do. There are obviously stairs involved as well. We could have done all that stuff. So good. So I could. The good thing is that I can cut the bit of that out when it goes live. So you had to put up with it. But so I don't know what happened there. I'm a bit worried now that I've got a fault. But I can't let that stop this flawless presentation. Where was I? Let's start again. Welcome to Real, because I can cut up to this bit. Welcome to Real Magic Review. Hello, Tom. Hello, everybody. Hello. God, I'm glad I checked. It was like that horrible time that I always remember. The Cubesmith review that I did live, and I did a 20-minute review, and then looked at the comments, and it was like, can't see you. You're not there. Where are you? And it was I had to do the whole thing again, and you still stayed, bless you, which is lovely. But thanks, yeah. So we're here now. I'm going to talk about things, and it's been a lovely week. I'm just some good magic stuff I'm working on. I'm really enjoying going back to basics and all that. But what I thought I'd do is first of all say check out cardmagiccourse.com. That's my online card magic course. Is brilliant and all that. Have a look at that, please. That runs the whole thing. If you like this, you'll love that. And there's some exciting things happening soon with that. And people that remember going, yeah, you keep saying that. But yeah, we're getting there. But it's brilliant at the moment, so check that out. But I thought I'd do a quick deck review, because what happens is I got sent a few decks before this is going to be a very quick one, and I never know what to say about them, because I don't want to just sort of, I don't know a load about decks. I know there are 1 of 3 cuts with every mate. There's the Bicycle have got 3 different cuts and all the different things. I don't know a lot about that. I'll keep learning about it and then forgetting it. And I keep reading Ender's Games posts on the Magic app. He's brilliant. He's got loads of really cool stuff on the Magician's Forum. And I learn off that and then forget it. So, but basically, right, let's be honest. When you get a deck of cards, if you like the look of them, they're going to be all right. If you know that they're the really thin stock for flourishing and stuff like that, that's the only problem. If they're the super thin stuff, you know they're not going to be great for some sort of normal card work. These aren't those. I can't remember what they call that thin stock. What's it called? Crushed, right? Crushed stock. These are US playing card companies. There are freak show cards. I'm just going to show them to you, because you know what? Let's be honest. If you like the look of them, you're going to like the cards, because they're good quality cards. That's a gaff card you get a double backer, you get a double facer. And if you like the look of these cards, they're really nice cards. They're decent cut. They're not the kind of, you know, the ones you get from Costco. And I'm just going to say, basically, look at them. Do you like them? If you do, buy them. I got sent these ages ago, and I think they're really lovely. So there's some lovely cards with a really poor spread for you to look at. There we go. And, oh yeah, people want to see the jokers, don't they? So there's a joker. Ace of Spades is always... Look, have a look at these, because look, you got the... By the way, this is as good as a deck review's going to get for me, I think. Have a look at them if you like. That's all right, I think, isn't it? Where's the Ace of Spades? I've lost it. Do I go? Oh, there it is. And have a look at the Ace of Spades there. And if you like them, you'll like that deck of cards. It is designed by Nick Vlau, and concept by Eric Ross. There's all the good stuff you need to know. If you Google them, you get them everywhere. If you're a dealer, Murphy's Magic sent these to me. So have a look at them. Ooh, oops, there you go. Right, so that's that. I feel less guilty now. I lose sleep when I get stuff and I don't review it, and I've had them for ages. So, freak show playing cards. Boom. Right, so ask any questions if you want. Ask them now. I'm going to give you a little bit on creating rapport with an audience, because I've done some talks on rapport. I do a lot of rapport building stuff with my leadership work that I do. And I think some of it is relevant. Now, please be aware that this is such a massive subject. And what I'm going to tell you now isn't the way to do it. I'm just going to share my experiences and what has worked for me in creating rapport with those audience. And I will say, no matter how long I've been doing this, when I go to a gig and I'm just not in the zone and I've got to go to those first group of people, I'm always like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. And after the first group of people, it's completely fine. So if you feel that kind of same stickiness, you're not on your own. It's completely natural. And I don't know what it's going to be like the next time I do a proper gig, because I haven't done it for so long. But here's what I learned. Little story, first of all. I've probably shared this in another context before, but when I was at Covent Garden, working the street every day in, day out, I really struggled to hold an audience, to keep an audience. I couldn't work out why they were walking away. And I was looking at the things the other people were doing, the tricks they were doing. I was doing the same tricks. I was doing the cigarette vanish into someone's jacket, everything, all golden stuff that I've seen work again and again from other performers. I wasn't the most original performer in the world, so I'd seen this as stock stuff. It was stuff that was out there. But I just couldn't get it to play. Audiences were walking away, and they were walking away for months and months and months and years, really. I could keep them every now and then, but I couldn't work out what I was doing wrong. And then I watched the performers, I'd watch them all, and I'd go, what is it? What is that guy doing? I remember the great Dave, amazing, do this juggling routine that was a good juggling routine, but it's pretty solid, but he was doing something to keep them there. And he wasn't being like over the top hilarious. It was like, what is it? What has he got? Lucky Rich as well, one of the biggest earning street performers in the world. If you looked at his show, it was a pretty standard show, but there was something about him. He's now the most tattooed man in the world, but before that, it was like people drawn to him and they were stuck there. And looking back on it, and actually at the time what I realised is I went to Australia and started relaxing because I didn't have the peer pressure. I had all this noise in my head about, overtrying because all the people I knew were watching me. And I just couldn't relax into it, and I was trying too hard and really pushing it. And I went to Australia and had no pressure really. Didn't know anybody there, and I walked out and started working on the show, and it started coming together because I was relaxing. This isn't the story, by the way. The story isn't just relax. But what I realised what was happening is I was working on the wrong stuff. I was working on the tricks. I was working on stuff. I was looking at the material and the content and not really looking at how I was delivering it. And I realised it was all about rapport, right? So when we talk about rapport, and I know you know what rapport is, but in this context, it's just kind of, it's not the stuff you're saying, even though that's important, and we'll look at that in a minute. It's that thing that kind of, they call it the oil in the engine of communication. It's the stuff that just allows it to flow. And I will say that when we're with people that we have natural rapport with, usually people that have similar values, that see the world in a similar way, we don't really have to try and do this. It just kind of happens. And that's why with some people, you'll be, I remember standing, waiting for my kids to come out of school, and with some people I'd run into and we'd have a really good chat. And some people it would just be like, the words just wouldn't come. You just couldn't think of anything to say. And that's when you need things to think about consciously about rapport and how you're going to be. And that's obviously what it's like sometimes doing close-up magic. You're going to meet people that you'll just bond with, and it'll really flow. And then you'll meet some people and they're just not like you, and that's completely fine. But that's when I think you need to think about how you approach them. So there's two ways, I think, of approaching an audience. Or we'll talk about an audience in a close-up magic, because that's the most difficult thing, I think. I think when you've got an audience in front of you and they've come to see you or they've seen a show, they're already kind of primed, but they might not be in a close-up magic situation. They might just be having dinner with their family, or they might be out at a social event or a corporate event, and they might not, oh, who's this? What's going on? They've not been primed for it. And I think that's kind of the difficult bit. Two ways you can go with it. One is you go in as performer, as kind of the magician that's doing the thing. And in that way, you've got a little bit of license, I think, to go in a little bit, I would say, exaggerated, let's say for now. You're playing that role, but we're going to talk about that in a second. Or you go in, and this is what some people do in the approach some people take, and they do it beautifully, as a guest. You just walk on and start saying hello and start saying hi, and the kind of magic starts happening. Now, I've always found that quite difficult. I tend to do a little bit of both, which is where I stand. But it's about finding what works for you. And I think the only way to do that is to experiment with it, and to experiment a lot. Like if you try something and it doesn't work, just try it a lot of times and see what happens. But I've done gigs where they go, what we want you to do, we want you to be like a stealth magician. And I like to go in and kind of say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm here. But saying that, it is a little bit different sometimes. But there to me are two ways of doing it, and I'm sure there are plenty. The thing that people get sniffy about a lot is things like, people always talk about the classic things, if you're starting a colour changing knife. The classic one is, that everybody laughs at and says, why would anybody do that? It's so ridiculous. Is to walk up and go, has anybody lost a knife? Has anybody lost a knife? Oh, look, well, it changes colour. Sounds ridiculous. But I actually claim that there is a way, if you were a certain type of performer, that you could do that very well. I couldn't, because it just doesn't fit what I do. But I think, again, if you do it well and you do it in a certain way, it would work. And I think the way you would do that in a certain way that it would work is to be authentic. Now, we've got to talk about what it means to be authentic. Seth Godin said on a podcast recently, the marketing guru expert, I love Seth Godin, he said, well, of course you don't want to be authentic, because if I'm getting booked and I'm getting paid serious money to do a talk and I'm not really feeling it, I can't be that authentic and walk on stage and go, I'm not really feeling this. So that isn't what I mean by authenticity. You have got to deliver what you're meant to deliver regardless how you feel. But my way of looking at it is you've got to find something within you that is real, that delivers what you want to deliver. So when I talk about being yourself and being authentic, I'm not talking about not adjusting how you feel. You have to be able to learn that skill of kind of compartmentalizing some stuff that may be going on in your life and really learning how to get in that zone and be the character you want to be in that moment. But it still can be authentic. And what I mean by that is that when I'm on stage, I'm very different when I'm on stage than 3 minutes before I go on. It's like two different people. I'm on my own. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm there. I walk on and bang, it comes on because of years of doing it. And actually, that happens even if you haven't got years of doing it. Something changes. But it doesn't mean you're not being yourself. Now, on the flip side of that, you may have a character. And I know a couple of people that when they do close-up magic, they have a specific character. They didn't maybe always used to do that. I think of one person that was a very successful close-up magician that I saw do this character. I was like, what's that? You know, an accent and everything, like a kind of Spanish accent kind of thing, I think. But it really worked for him because he just got into that zone, but he was still kind of being him within that character. He was finding something, because we're not all that brilliant at acting, right? We've got to find something that works for us. So again, you can do character, you can do all that stuff, but it's got to come from somewhere real or something that you've honed down and you're kind of finding something you can relax into, if you see what I mean. So that's what I mean by authenticity. But you can do character and you don't have to be how you're feeling at the time. One of the key aspects, I think, the thing that I see the mistakes I see most people make are not adjusting to an audience, which I think is the main thing. And I'll talk about how to do that in a minute if you're struggling with it. It becomes natural after a while, but and actually you do it in your life all the time. So it's just an audience, but it's also not being very self-aware. It's fair enough saying to someone, be yourself, but a lot of people don't know who themselves is. That's bad English, but do you know what I mean? So I think it is really worth really looking down and spending some time. Analysing yourself is the wrong word because we can do that very incorrectly and we can get wrong ideas about ourselves. But maybe asking people again, you know, if I was to do magic, how would you see me do that? And get an idea. And over years, if you explore your own sort of preferences and what you like and what you don't like and really think about it, I think you can come up with some enlightening stuff that wasn't quite so obvious. So when I do leadership work, I do a lot of self-awareness work where I say, okay, if this happened, what would your response be? And people go, yeah, actually I'd do that. So they understand that they have different preferences in different contexts. And working on self-awareness is really, really important because then you can get a good idea of how you would adapt to a different situation. But let's talk about the adjusting to your audience bit. This to me is the big one. The two big ones are, people say it all the time, the way to do it is be a normal person. Someone said on Facebook earlier, I think, when I put this up, they said, just be a normal human being. And I totally agree, absolutely. But there's a journey to go on before you can gain that confidence to walk onto a stage or in front of people and perform and feel normal. Because you're not feeling it, you're getting all the butterflies. So it is actually a skill to be normal. I don't think it's as easy as just be normal. The weird thing is, you have all this training and practice and flight time and stage time to learn how to actually relax on stage, and it takes a long time. So we'll go into the kind of techniques that you may need if you're struggling. And like I say, this is stuff we do all the time when we're with people we have natural rapport with. And you've got to be careful with this stuff because it is misconstrued a lot. If you do any kind of training on rapport, you'll do stuff on matching and mirroring. All right? And this is misunderstood. You see it all the time on TV shows, matching and mirroring. If you want to get rapport, if you want something to influence someone, you have to match their body language. But what it does not mean is copying. It's a massive difference. If you sit opposite someone and you start copying exactly when they lift their drink and when they move their hand and when they cross their legs and all that stuff, it's going to look really odd. What you have to do is just match their demeanor, how they are. And there are a few ways of doing this. So from this point onwards, when I say match, I do not mean copy exactly. I'm on about creating a bond where you can understand each other and it creates empathy and all that sort of thing. The first, you can match on body language, as we say. If somebody is very laid back and you're, again, in a close-up situation, I would, it's not saying it doesn't work at all, but I wouldn't be really unrelaxed, basically. You don't want to completely contradict what they are. It'll still work, but we're talking about marginal gains here. We're talking about, so if I'm having a meeting with someone and I can see they're kind of laid back, I will veer towards being a little bit more laid back. It's not like if I'm in a meeting, I'm going to start putting my feet up on the chairs and kind of scratching. I was going to say, I'm not going to say that, but you know what I mean? I'm not going to be that laid back, even if they are. But it's kind of finding your version of that. And that's the really important thing. You've still got to be yourself. I've written here, match, but not away from yourself. You're not being them. You're not trying to, you're being you, right? So just get the idea of demeanor. And language, right? It's not body language, language. This is a big one for me. And we all do it. You talk very differently to your parents, your grandparents, other elderly relatives or friends than you do to little kids. But you're still being you. You've got your own way of communicating, and we adapt that all the time. And all you're doing is that in a close-up magic situation. So a wedding is a classic example. You're doing a wedding. Say you got the table of all the old folks, which is really bad, isn't it? Put the old ones over there. But let's say you have, let's for sake of argument and for learning. I will talk to those differently than the way I will go up to a group of people that are maybe 20 odd years old, getting absolutely hammered, swearing all over the place. I would have two different styles of talking to those people. They are both me. They're not me being them, they're me. I might be I'm not saying copy this, you've got to do your own way about it, but your own way of doing it. But if I'll be a little bit sweary because I know it's not going to offend them, because if they really are like going for it and all taking the mickey out of each other and all that, I might sort of adjust my language for that. I'm going to be a lot more polite if it's someone more traditional. So it's just about observing where you're going and it sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't. I see them go into the same script. I see them go into the same tone. And that's the big thing, voice tone as well. Voice tone is huge. It's, we know we can say exactly the same words. Like if I say to you, I'm really, really happy, you're going to read the opposite of that. The words become irrelevant in that context. It's not that thing that everybody says that words are irrelevant and it's all about body language. But the words are really relevant, but the way you say them is really important. So look at your voice tone. If people are really excited and you're going really chilled out, it's going to clash, in my experience. If they're really kind of formal, then going a little bit more formal, straighten up a little bit. And it's all that kind of stuff. Use slightly more formal language. So look at voice tone and try and match it kind of with where they are. And what you will find, and going back to the street, this is exactly what happened to me. I was going out there and people had said to me, you've got to get attention on the street. You've got to go and start shouting and get your stuff out. That's great. But if you're going out with a few people having a coffee and people are just sort of chilling out and you go, right, I'm going to do a show. And it's all kind of like that. You can see it. It's a bit of a clash. People don't like it. And when it all changed for me is when I started going out and going, right, in a minute, it might get quite noisy, but I'm going to do a show in a minute. I'm just going to put my stuff out and then I'm going to get a few people to clap and cheer. And it will be really, really chilled. And what happens is I would get them to listen to me and build rapport and then take them where I wanted to go. And this in NLP world and all that, and I don't agree with everything NLP says. I think there's a lot of sort of pseudoscience in it, but I think there's a load of good stuff as well. And this is definitely what I live by. And it doesn't work for everybody, but it's called pace and lead, pacing and leading. And pace and lead basically means you can't influence someone until you've got on the same wavelength for them. And a really good example of this is a girlfriend of mine was very introverted. All right, so her way of communicating was very quiet, was very considered, and there was not a lot of kind of, me, as you can see, I'm kind of all like arms waving all over the place, getting very excited about stuff, talking really quickly because I'm really into what I'm saying. And that was a bit of a clash. And what I would do, and not in a manipulative way, this happened quite naturally over time, is that if I wanted to get her on board with an idea, or let's go, I don't know, out the Peak District for a walk or whatever, I'd be like, oh, it's a lovely day, let's go out. But I would walk in and go sit next to her and we'd do it kind of in a relaxed way. Oh, do you fancy going for a walk? And then when we're on board, then we're sort of away. And with the street, that changed everything for me. It was looking at the feel and the energy on that pitch when I walked out and matching that energy before I built the show up. And by the end of the show, everybody's clapping and cheering and all that. And I think that, again, for me, not for everybody, if I got to a group of people, I look at the energy of that group of people and I say, I'm going to go in at that energy. And then we go to the difference between going in as a performer, right, I'm the magician, which again can really work for a lot of people, or going in and having a chat. And I said I'd do the bit in the middle. What I tend to do is I'm like me plus two. I'm a little bit more, so I want to create this knowledge that I'm a performer because it gives me license to do the things I'm going to do. It's weird to me if I'm a normal person, I'm pretending to be a guest at a party and I start getting props out. I kind of feel like I'm just a normal guest showing off, where really I'm a professional show off. But I want that license. I want them to know why I'm doing it, to have some context. I am a magician. I've been asked to, and I do sometimes say stuff like, I'm sure it's not my thing, but sorry, because you do have to interrupt people, and that is sometimes they don't want to be interrupted. But sometimes the person that's booked you is looking at you going, you got to do something, mate, because I know it's quiet at the moment, but I want you to start. So in that respect, I'll be totally authentic and honest and just say, look, I'm the magician, I'm here, I'm really sorry to interrupt, I don't mean to, but if I don't, I'm not going to get paid, it's all going to get weird and courts get involved and all that. I'm not saying say that, but it just suits Mike, and then they get it, they know, and they go, all right, show us something. And then I kind of have a chat with them, do something gentle and take them off with me. So if you're going to match people, and this is the one thing I think, just look at, and like I say, don't copy. If you're watching this video and you've come in and you haven't seen the first bit, I'm not saying copy people. It's all about body language. I think massive is language, the words you use in context, how you approach them. And also what I find, if you're really struggling, works really well. If there are people having a conversation, you've got to start and listen to the conversation. And if there's anything I can say to join in the conversation that doesn't sound false in the way that, you know, when you're getting your shopping and they go, hey, what are you doing today? And you know they don't care and they've just been told to say it. You don't want that. It's kind of genuinely listening for things and trying to match on interests and values. So if someone's talking about a Netflix series that you've seen, I will often go, oh God, I watched that the other day. And I did, you know, someone's saying, it's brilliant, isn't it? Is there another series coming out? So I'll start in that way. So I'm trying to create rapport and match on values, interests, things like that, but in an authentic and real way. And the reason I'm telling you all this, and I know you will do this anyway, a lot of you, but I do see an awful lot people even showing me a trick and going into this character because it's the same character that they go into and they say the same words in the same way, and they say words like, hello sir, could you please, and you kind of go, that's just not going to work in some places. And I think the way we approach people, if we really think about it and experiment with it and create rapport, the magic is a lot easier. It just because what you're looking for is for people to like you. You know, if you're going to interrupt people and you want them to kind of think that you're someone that's self-aware, that kind of gets what's going on, that understands their situation, that empathizes with them, and it's not just about, hey, I'm going to, you know, I remember seeing someone doing coin magic to someone and they butted in with them and they're having a meal and a conversation and straight away it's like flash paper, coins out the ear, big coin, and it was just so intense, and you can see them kind of like, you know, that's one way of doing it, but I think it's worth thinking about, and it's really easy. I'm not trying to codify it and make it sound like it's a science. It really isn't. And when you do it and think about these things, it kind of flows. But the big thing is, and as a person on Facebook did say earlier, which I totally agree with, just be a nice person, be a genuine person. Don't feel like you've got to fill every bit of silence with stuff. You don't have to talk every minute. Silence is golden, you know, because that's not what we do in normal conversation. Listen to them, ask them questions about them that are real, that you're genuinely interested in, you know, and people love to talk about themselves, and they will bond with you in a very small way if you have a conversation with them, which again is real, and you get eye contact and do all that good stuff. And very importantly, one last thing, don't feel like you've got to be a comedian. Don't feel like that your magic doesn't stand up unless you're really funny or you say the line, because no line is funny if you're not funny, and you're only funny if you're really relaxed and you're saying it in a way that is natural, you know, in that environment. I think it's weird when you got people having a drink, you're going up to them and straight away you're sort of the gag master. And you know, people used to say to me, you know, what do you think of Dynamo? He's not much of a show person, is he? And I'll be like, well, actually, that's why people watch him for a long time, and they watch him again and again and again, because he's a normal person doing normal magic tricks, and the magic stands up for himself, and he lets it speak for himself, and he gives it space. And I think that's worth knowing about when you're performing magic. This stuff is miraculous to people. We get used to seeing it, they don't. So just let it speak for itself sometimes, and don't feel like you've got to talk over it. And I do it all the time, so I'm not saying be like me. I'm always catching myself doing it. I watch myself on video and I just think, shut up. You know, as you are probably now. So there you go. I just thought that's my approach to an audience, and I do exactly the same thing on stage. I do, you know. I think you can got a lot more license on stage, of course, but I try and go on exactly, and then go on pace and lead and bring them with you. So there's my little talk about rapport and building an audience, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Anything else that I forgot to say? No, I don't think so. Oh yeah, be flawed. That's important. You don't have to be perfect. So, any questions? I'm banging on for ages now because it didn't get my thing going, did I? Gary, how you doing? Tayshawn, hey, how you doing? Mr. C, good to see you. How soon do you need to get cards in someone else's hand? From Tom. Depends what you mean by playing cards or business cards. Don't ask me, I'm shocking with business cards. I always forget to give them. I do think that there's a thing, again, it's a very personal thing. You're probably not meaning business cards. You might be meaning playing cards. For me, I just kind of, because I'm so into kind of just having a chat and having a laugh, by the time whatever comes out first, whether it's cards, coins, anything, I just get them. And I just kind of go, I'll sign one of them. It's all very informal. And I'm not saying that's for everybody. I've found my own way of doing it. So I don't over worry about that. With business cards, and you might not have meant that, but I think it's an important one as well, because there's all sorts of people saying, oh, I should do a trick with a business card. And that's how you should incorporate your business card. I think with mentalism, where the card is used in a way that isn't obvious that that's why you're doing it, you're actually saying, oh, we're going to use this right on this is the thing, and then they end up with the card. That's a very different thing. But I've found that out of all the things I've tried, business cards from flash paper, making them appear and all that, and it just doesn't suit me. I've shown them the magic. I just go, do you want one of them? Because if I don't give you one of them, I'll never get any work, which is exactly what I say. And they go, all right then. And they kind of, it's just honest. But for a lot of people, that isn't going to work. So, but I don't think I have to get cards into the hand in any way soon. I'm there to do this thing. And hopefully if you've got that rapport, you'll have to work a lot less at having to get, they take one and we have a laugh and we start doing stuff together, and it's fine. I know all the swear words. Yeah, good. Hector, how you doing? When I perform, my motto is take no prisoners. Only perform magic that kills. Yeah, I mean, why would you not? Well, I'll tell you why you wouldn't. The only time is if I'm doing it all kills in that way that it's all really effective. But I think that if, sometimes you turn up and you think there's going to be like 30 tables and there's 3, and you go, hang on a minute, this is going to be like a parlor show at each table. That's when I think you can still have magic all magic's got to be strong. There's no point in doing it if it isn't. But you can have the stuff that is utter miracle, and you can have stuff that's just really beautiful to kind of create the arc in that sort of thing, really. So I love doing my coins across. It's very magical, but people will know that it's sleight of hand in some way. And I know people say, no, people shouldn't even be thinking that. They do. They get a coin out, they know it's going to be sleight of hand, even if it isn't. All right, so that's what they think is happening. As opposed to something like Wiki Test or something where they just can't get there's nowhere to go with it a lot of the time if performed properly. And I think to have both of those is really, really nice. You can have nice tricks that are magical, they still don't know how they're done. But you're right, it's all got to be super strong stuff, and you don't want to be doing some really poor trick in the middle of it to change the rhythm. That's not what I mean. But yeah, absolutely. You do all the best stuff, all your A material. Right, so that's that. Thanks very much. Sorry about the little audio thing at the beginning. I'll hack that off when YouTube allows me to. Of course, there's a lot more to say about this, and do disagree with me. I mean, I'm totally happy for that, but it's Tom, and very importantly, what do you do when you're dying? The best thing to do when you feel like it's not going well, which is the hardest thing to do, is to slow down, breathe, and almost restart. So I like about meditation, they talk about meditation, you go, how can I do 20 minutes of meditation? Oh, it's 15 minutes already. Every breath is a new start, and I think that's a really nice thing when you're performing. What tends to happen is is this panic comes in when you know it's not going well, you start talking quicker, it starts kind of, and then it's even more to crawl back, to claw back. You've got to do a lot more work. Whereas if I feel like I'm kind of losing people, which does happen, of course it happens to everybody, and it could be that it's just a bad environment, that there's noise, all this kind of stuff. It's not always the fault of the performer. I just think stop, breathe, work with what you've got. Okay? Don't try and fix something that is unfixable. If you're in a bad environment, there's hardly anybody there, there's no atmosphere, slow down and try and do that pace and lead thing. You know, connect with them in some other way, and don't worry about it not being an absolute stormer every time. Unless you've got like a really set act and you're part of an ensemble, that's a different thing. But I'm on about with close up, and I'm quite happy if I got a group of people and it's not working, and maybe one of them's really drunk and giving me a hard time. I'll just walk away from them. Sorry, it's not working for me. Have a great one. I'll finish with a little story about that, and then I will go. I did stand up for about a year, and I wasn't very good at it. I was good when I was good, and which wasn't that often, and that was usually when I was improvising. Something happened, and I didn't have to do my material, which was terrible. But I did a comedy club, and I think I have talked about this before, called Up the Creek. And Up the Creek was a famous comedy club, and it was famous for heckling, and people would just go there heckle. And I did this comedy club, and I travelled all the way over the line. There was buses replacing trains that weren't working, all that. I finally got to the club. A guy called Malcolm Hardy, who's died now, was famous for hosting this comedy club. And I died on my, I absolutely died. But everybody did on the night, right? And none of us were any good. We deserved it. You know, none of us were on it, and we were all kind of open spots. The first few people that died, he came on and he gave them quite a hard time. He wasn't mean, but he joked about how bad they were. You know, he was like, you know, and he made jokes about how bad they were, and it was all part of the thing. I died just as bad as them, and I watched. I didn't want to hear what he said. I was like, I can't deal with this at the moment because it's going to really affect me. And he said, everybody give it a big round of applause. Steve thought he was all right, wasn't he? And I was like, and I died really badly. And I worked out, I looked at it, and it was just because I didn't get arrogant about it. I just kind of went, you know what, it's not working. And I think it's the best thing. If something doesn't work, just accept it's not working. Because what we tend to do when we're uncomfortable is blame. That's what happens. And people that study blame call it the offsetting or the unloading of pain and discomfort. That's all blame is. You know, like when you feel discomfort, you want to pull it somewhere else. So you blame other people. That's why when we feel insecure, we see other performers being really successful. We find something wrong with their performance and we look at it and we go, well, that's rubbish. That's, you know, and you see it all the time, people slagging off other performers. It's just because they're uncomfortable, because it highlights what they're not doing. And that's, you know, we all get that, and it's totally fine. So if it's not working for you, don't get panicky and start blaming things. Just accept it, go with it, and people will come with you. And it's that pace and lead thing as well. So there you go. I'll stop talking now. Have a good one, everyone. Like and subscribe. Check out Card Magic Course. If you like this, tell your friends, and maybe even share it on that social media. You can do that if you want, if you think it will help people. And have a good one. Take care. See you later. Stay safe. Cardmagiccourse.com/Cull. Feel free, spread Cull. Download. Bye.